Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of the Road to Indy Insiders and Debrief live show. Getting things ready to go. We're obviously looking forward to what's going to happen next week when we finally get back to the racetrack. Lucas Oil Raceway will be on the oval, the 5/8 mile banked oval out in Brownsburg for the first time this year. And of course, drivers in Indy Pro 2000 will then be on track as well at Worldwide Technology Raceway Gateway later in the month. But it's still Mid-Ohio, kind of in our mindset. We did the triple header in the middle of the week, just a couple weeks ago. We were supposed to be back there this past weekend, but of course that event was postponed, being moved potentially into September, possibly October, hoping to get a confirmation on when we're going to have that event, but that's still coming. I decided before we get going here, I want to make sure we do at least one show a week. And so I thought we'd get a couple of drivers that kind of used Mid-Ohio and that midweek triple header as a breakout for them. Both these drivers having their best results of the year, best results in USF 2000 and best results in Indy Pro 2000. I've got Jack William Miller from Miller Vinatieri Motorsports. He's going to join me second. The guy I'm going to lead off with here, though, the driver who was in the battle last season for the championship in USF 2000 with Braden Eves. Of course, I'm talking about Hunter McElrea from Pabst Racing. We'll bring him on first and get things underway. Let's jump this. There he is right there. Hunter, how are you?
Good, thank you, mate. How are you?
I'm good, man. Great to have you with me. Looking forward, of course, to the race next week. But let's go back and talk about the Mid-Ohio event because I think for you, Road America will be one you'll probably want to forget. It didn't even happen. We're going to look forward.
Unfortunately, it did.
It did. True. But you know what happens in championships, things can always change. Let's talk about Mid-Ohio for you, though, because you came out of the gate strong. You were fourth in practice, qualified, I think, seventh for the first race. You ended up finishing eighth. It all ends up with you getting a second-place finish in the last race of the weekend, which I think was fantastic for you. But how do you look back right now at that Mid-Ohio event?
Yeah, it was even that weekend was quite up and down. I mean, there was never too many lows, but qualifying P7 was not where we needed to be.
You weren't happy with that?
No, not at all. I mean, we had a lot of potential. Like, we rolled out practice P4 with a lot of time up our sleeve, we felt like. Mm-hmm. And then qualifying, how it worked out in Quali 1, there was everyone went to two sets of tires. So the first set of tires, we were P2, like half tenth off Braden, and then it was like, it was good. And then we tried something mid-session for the second set of tires, and it didn't work. I mean, it wasn't massive, but okay. I mean, the field in Indy Pro is so stout. There's 8 guys going for poles and race wins, literally 8 guys or more. And a 10th or 2 puts you back 5 spots. So we kind of lost 2 tenths to everyone else, and we didn't get the gain that everyone else got in the second set of tires. So we were 7th. And then race 1 was just an average race. I made a little mistake early and ended up back in P12, and then trying to pass through in the dirty air is so difficult. So we did the fast lap of race 1. So like our pace, our 1 lap speed was good still, but just little things with getting the car to come on early in the race is what we were struggling with. So, throughout the weekend, qualified 5th for the second quali, which was better, but, still not what we're chasing. I think there's a lot more that I can achieve, and I know the team is capable of. So, we kept chipping away at it. Got 6th in race 2, was a wild race. I think I almost crashed 3 times. And just to finish 6th, I was like, again, it's not at all what I'm after, but I was like, okay, I'll grab those points because it's the best points I've had all season. And then I ended up starting 7th for race 3, which again wasn't where I wanted to start, but just with the way the schedule has been, it's crazy because there's so many guys who maybe not usually starting up the front who can use this schedule and format to their advantage to get a good starting position. So there's championship contenders like Braden, who was super quick in qualifying trim, didn't maybe have like the race pace, or he had race pace, but it's so tight that he was starting like 10th. So there's guys who are just all over the place in the grid.
And Mid-Ohio is a tough place to pass, anyways.
Oh, 100%. So. For me, going from USF to Indy Pro as well, the aero wash plays such a big part in it. And the races are longer, so balance changes a lot from the start to the middle to the end of the race. And there's a lot of different things you got to, as a driver, get on top of. So for me,
let's go there real quick. I really haven't had the chance to really ask that direct question. You go from USF 2000 to Indy Pro. Can you talk about what the transition's like? There are people that say, hey, we should maybe just get rid of Indy Pro. It should be USF 2000 to Indy Lights. But that jump from Indy Pro to USF 2000 to Indy Pro, it's significant.
Definitely of these new cars as well. I mean, it's for me, I think the initial jump was pretty seamless in terms of 1 lap pace. I mean, I jumped in the car at Chris Griffith's test and put it P1. So it was definitely physically a big step up, but there's just more of everything for you to have: more grip, more braking, more power, and you can just attack. So it's really cool. But also, what I haven't really had a chance until now to feel is how, like, qualifying and putting a lap down in practice and stuff, it's not the hardest part. What's harder compared to USF is not only the competition. Obviously, with Indy Lights being cancelled, it brings a bunch of guys in to make the field even stronger, which is great. But with the race, how much you have to deal with dirty air and, dealing with the car to come on at the start of the race. And then, say you start off with understeer, the middle of the race feels okay. At the end of the race, you have crazy oversteer. So you've got to, as a driver, adapt on the fly a lot, which, honestly, it was difficult for me, and it caught me out a few times already this year, which, is not ideal, but I've learned from it. And, basically, I guess what we're all kind of talking about, and the whole point of me being on this episode is that, we kept chipping away at it, myself and my engineer, Tony East, and we started 7th and literally allowed to charge through to P2. So we had mega pace. The car was, particularly the first start of the race, just being able to attack and make hay early in the race is so important. And we were maybe lacking that a bit at the start of the weekend, but to be able to just start putting moves on people, and particularly, at Mid-Ohio, you can only really pass around the outside of turn 4, unless someone makes a big mistake somewhere. That's where I did all my passes in that race, around the outside of turn 4. Or maybe one pass on the inside, but basically it's like you got to be getting really good exits out of turn 2. So we had really good 1 lap pace, but was a little bit weak on the opening laps of turn 2, and I just got pushed the back at the start of every race. So basically, long story short, race 3 was really good. Pushed through to 2nd, and then I caught Stingray from about 2 seconds back.
You did, yeah.
And I was, part of me, half of me was thinking like I could win this here, and it was looking, I was really pushing so hard, and I'm not sure if you saw, but I had the biggest moment at turn 9. I was full lock sideways catching it, and I was like, maybe 2nd would be good. So
I'm good.
I was like, I better take these points, because if I have another bad result, then it's like we really have a lot of work to do. But luckily, we got the points. I think I went from 17th in the championship to 8th.
I wrote that down. Yeah, and only 2 points. Only 2 points out of 7th as well.
But the crazy thing is that after 5 races last year, I think I was 44 points off Braden in 2nd, and I'm less. I think I'm 40 or 41 points, and I'm 8th. So this year, I'm still in the fight. There's a long way to go, and I think we're only getting stronger. There's going to be places where we haven't really rolled out with the best car that we were hoping with, in terms of like straight away. We've always got to the end of the weekend and been like, okay, and there's been things out of our control that have hurt us as well. But I feel like we're definitely going to show what we can do at certain races of the year. But it's just going to be such an intense year with the amount of guys that can challenge for the win. And then maybe if you're not on your game, instead of finishing like last year in USF, okay, maybe this weekend we're just missing it a little bit, you'd be 3rd or get 2nd. But now it's like a train from 1st to 8th. So the window is so tiny.
So it's the 3rd year with the Tatis PM18, and obviously some teams have a bit of a head start on Pabst, because really their first year in competition here in Indy Pro 2000. Where do you feel? Are you guys still at a place where you think maybe by the final race, the last race, that you guys are building your baseline, building your notes? Like, it seems like everywhere you go, it's kind of a clean sheet of paper to a certain extent.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're only 2 races in. I mean, Road America, we were super quick. But obviously things out of control hurt us. And a mistake from my part in race 1 as well. But it's one of these things where I think we came out of the box. Like, in my opinion, I was thinking like, okay, if I can go P3 or run at the front in my first test, I'll be happy. And we came out of the box, and I was just completely blown away with where we were at. So I think every weekend someone else will maybe have the edge. And it's going to be the thing that's going to win the championship this year is, being consistent and just constantly getting as much points as possible. So, it's even last year, I think I had 12 podiums and it wasn't enough. But with the spread of points, like I was talking about, even grabbing P4s, P5s, it's going to be so important because, I think like I couldn't have imagined to have had this many people like battling for the championship and within this many points. I mean, obviously in USF, there's a very big gap to second. And last year, even it was like that a little bit. It was pretty much just me and Braden fighting for the championship. So if I finish first and he finishes fourth, it's not that big a game. But like I said, when there's so many people who you're competing against, the spread's so much bigger, right? So it's just the competition so much tougher. And 2/10 separating the top 5 maybe in USF. Now it's just half that, if not less. So I'm loving it being a part of it, honestly. I mean, it's just one of these things where you got to get on top of it and it develops you as a driver. And no doubt, I think having this competition this year is going to help me so much in the future. So I'm loving it. I mean, the challenges have been tough, but it's been really tough starts to the year. But even getting on the podium and having a race like that, there's been so many times last year where I got second and I was like, I wasn't really happy. And this time I got second. It's the happiest I've ever been for second, put it that way. So
do you feel a renewed confidence and momentum with that second place finish?
Definitely. I think it just puts a bit of wind in everyone's sails. It's when you're running around P6, it's like, it's not where any of us want to be. So even second's not where we want to be, but to have that result and just to show how much pace we had and just to chase down the leader like that, it shows you have something to fight for and you have what it takes. And, all the hard work from the guys at the shop, it's amazing. They really, really have done an amazing job. And this is our first year, obviously, for me and the team in Indy Pro. And I think to kind of come out of the box like we have, even though we haven't achieved what we want yet, I think we're only going to get stronger and stronger as it goes on. So massive thanks to all the boys for the hard work and even just throughout the weekend. So.
Well, listen, you don't go anywhere. You stay here. I'm going to bring you back for the preview. We'll drop you into the back of the studio, bring you back to the preview for Lucas Oil Raceway. So stay with us, bud. All right?
Cool.
All right. Let's bring you this guy, Jack William Miller.
Hey, how are you?
Jack, how are you, bud?
I'm good. How are you?
Fresh off the workout at Pit Fit?
Yeah.
Good man.
Not in a rush.
Hey, listen, obviously, in looking at what you've done this year, and we'll introduce you, obviously, Jack runs for Miller Vinatieri Motorsports in the number 40 machine in USF 2000. Last year, I think your best finish was a 9th, I believe, at Toronto. Yeah. But you came out of the gate big time at this year. Obviously, at Road America, you ended up topping one of the practice sessions at Road America. Let's talk about this particular weekend at Mid-Ohio. You were 10th in practice. Yeah, a little bit rougher the first year. You qualified 13th, finished 16th. You had a 16th and a 17th. But the one I really want to focus on is race number 3, P5, up into the top 5. Let's talk about that particular race. How good was it for you? How good did it feel to be able to run the way you did?
It felt really good. It was kind of a hard thing to do because in the whole weekend before, or like start of the weekend, we were 10th in practice, like you said, and then qualifying 1, we had a mistake where we came in the pits to make a change, and then a red came out. So as the track was coming in, we didn't really get the opportunity to put it in a good lap. And then for race 1, the car wouldn't start, so we started 2 laps down. We were able to be out there, and we were, I think, P2 on fastest time.
Yeah.
So we knew that we had the speed, and so then it all kind of came together in race 3. But I still think
it's your second year of the series, right? So I love always asking this question, especially for one of the younger drivers. You're 16 years of age. How much different are you now than you were when you started the season last year at St. Petersburg?
Oh, it's huge, especially
right?
just off of physical and just getting used to the car and everything, and getting used to my new engineer working together.
Let's go there. Perfect example. Let's talk about your new engineer this year. And I think that's in talking to your father, that seems like that's been a pretty big thing for you, having a new engineer in the camp. Tell me about that.
Yeah, well, Skip Esma, he's a great guy and great engineer. He's been in race cars for however many years, working for in NASCAR, and then I think he worked at Ganassi Engineering. So he's a great guy, super knowledgeable. And ever since our one engineer after St. Pete, he couldn't get into the country, so we had to make a switch and kind of throw everything together with only one test before our first race.
Yeah.
But I think we've gotten up to speed really fast.
Obviously, I think you understand this. Your dad's been in the sport forever. You kind of grew up through in the sport here. Having that communication, right, that dialogue, that language with your engineer is so crucial. How much different is it for you? Did you guys connect really quickly? Did you click?
Yeah, the first time we set up a car, went out and it felt great and everything. And then at the test, we were obviously quick at the Mid-Ohio test. So I think we had a P1 in one of the sessions and third overall.
So let's talk about that race. You're up there, the front of the group. You're battling away. You end up P5. Give me your thoughts on how that race was in the middle of the race. Were you trying to calm yourself down, like, man, I don't want to overdrive right now because I got a good result coming?
Well, it was a good race. We had to start P9 because of an issue in the race 2. We got into a wreck with someone. So starting in the back, working my way up, and then I got out in the 5th, and it was just like clear skies in front of us. So
you're like, yes, finally. Good for you. Hey, listen, I think one of the other big things for you, obviously, before we came on the broadcast, yourself, and Hunter were talking about the physicality of driving these cars. Hunter talked about how much more physical it is driving the Indy Pro. We talked about karting a little bit. I'm super impressed. Your dad told me this. I talked to Gabby Chavez about this, but you really, really dove into your training and committed to it. You're at Pit Fit every day. You and Gabby are training to do a half Ironman. Where did this happen? First of all, where did it happen?
Well, last year I started to really look back at everything and go, what's not working, what's not clicking, why are we so off the pace and everything, and why can I run up at the front, but then at the end of the race it just all falls apart. So, and then I looked back and I think it was the physical stuff, and so I just started to work out a little bit more, and then I looked into Pit Fit. And so when I started going there, it just slowly ramped up until went from 2 hours a week when I was in F4 of working out to now 2.5, 3 hours a day working out every single day. So it's been a small gradual step, but I think that's been the main thing of picking up speed and being able to hold 10 tenths for an entire 45-minute run, whereas I would fall apart.
You're not giving anything up at all. The car, you're able to take everything out of the car. Now, I'd have to think that being at Pit Fit, because there's so many other drivers that are there on a regular basis, whether it's Scott Dixon or Alexander Rossi or James Hinchcliffe or wherever else, you're surrounded by people that are showing you the commitment you need as well. And then you're with a guy like Gabby Chavez, who had so much success coming up through the ranks, Indy Lights champion, Freedom 100 winner. I'd have to think that just even conversations with you guys, because you're out cycling together as well. Is that correct?
Yes, all the time.
I think that some of the conversations when you're on the road, do you talk racing? Do you talk the mental side of racing while you're working out together?
Yeah, we do. And it's a good thing for me seeing everyone else working out and putting in everything. But then sometimes I can get into it a little bit too deep and overtrain by trying to beat everyone else. So sometimes I have to kind of hold myself back a little.
So there's a lot of competition, is there?
Yeah, there always is.
So fill me out. Listen, the thought about doing an Ironman exhausts me. Where did that come from? Where'd the Ironman idea come from?
Well, we all started back, I think last winter. We said, we're going to do a half marathon, the May one that they have that goes around the 500 track.
Yeah.
And so then that got canceled. And then I think Gabby had done some triathlon stuff back when he was younger in Florida. So he started talking about that, and we looked into it, and we all agreed to do a sprint triathlon over at Eagle Creek in Indiana. And then after that, it was, let's do a half Ironman. And then that turned into a full Ironman. So.
Wow. Okay. So you've done this training, and you talked about the fact that you looked at last year, what you had missed. Tell me how much better you felt physically, the whole thing throughout the triple header at Mid-Ohio. A ton of track time. You guys were on for like 4.5 hours or something like that in track time over those days. How good did you feel in the last race of that week?
I felt great. I don't know how I was able to do everything last year that I did and
That's funny.
survive for those 45-minute sessions. I mean, even at the end of the triple header, I was still pretty winded. And if we had that last year, I would have been dead.
That's awesome. All right. Well, listen, I appreciate it. Let's move this here. Let's bring Hunter back in. Let me get you guys in a different lineup here. Let's try this one. There we go. Now we can see your names and everything. All right, guys. We talked about Mid-Ohio. We've debriefed that. You guys had finally some success. Obviously, Hunter P2 in the last race. Jack William in 5th spot. A tremendous race for you. Now we go oval racing. Hunter, I'll start with you. What do you think about going to Lucas Oil Raceway?
I'm looking forward to it. It was last year I hadn't driven or seen an oval ever. And I remember like rolling out. I think I ended up like P4 and P2 in the test, and I was like, "Whoa, I wasn't expecting that." And then I rolled up to the race, and we were quick. And then in qualifying, I went provisional pole in the first lap, and then walled it, so had to start last, and that derailed that weekend. But I really enjoyed it. You know, like it was a different discipline, and comparing what I kind of know and how much, I guess you could say, homework I've done on the oval compared to where I was last year. You know, I think it's I'm excited to put it to use. You know, I've obviously been there, so it's nice knowing that. It's obviously a very unique oval in the sense that you're running the wall, basically, obviously in that high line the whole way, and a very one groove track. Obviously, we touched on before in the iRacing series we did where we raced the old Pro Mazdas. It was flat out, and it was like a super speedway. So it was not really probably what it's going to be like when we go there. But yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be, like I was talking about before, how close it is in the championship. It's going to be so important just to have a good bag of points there and see how we go.
Yeah, 1.5 points, of course, on the oval. Pabst Racing, where did you guys do any testing for oval?
Colin tested at Lacrosse, so I didn't participate in that test, unfortunately, but I was there and watched it, and just to have kind of a test up your sleeve, even just to develop the car and get a direction of not showing up like, okay, I think this is what should work here. Obviously, there's plenty of experience in the USF cars, but even just for the first time Indy Pro to do a full day of solid running and just develop the car, and Colin's really good at that as well. You know, I could trust him to put his best foot forward in developing a decent car to work from. So yeah, it was good for the team and Colin to get that under their belt.
Get that baseline right, because to be honest, with the Thursday, like a full day of practice on Thursday on, and then of course leaving practice on Friday, you guys get a ton of seat time there before we go racing.
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, it's obviously very condensed compared to last year, this whole year really, which is, you know, for us to be getting a season in. Road to Indy have done an amazing job. Obviously, I cannot complain at all with what we're getting. It's amazing. So considering the circumstances, obviously, but yeah, I mean, last year we obviously had, I think it was a day after or a day or two after the GP in Indy. We had a test, and then we came back a week later for the race. So yeah, still we got a full day of testing, which is nice. It's not like we're showing up like NASCAR and just dropping the hammer from there. Straight with the green flag. But no, it should be good. I'm really looking forward to it, and the Indy Pro car should be a whole lot of fun around there.
I think so too. Jack, let's go to you. Oval racing, the Freedom 75 and USF 2000. Are you looking forward to it as much as Hunter is?
Oh, I'm super excited. I've been wanting to get back on the oval since last year, and it's kind of bothered me because we were P2 in the practice before the race or before qualifying, and then we went up to qualify, and on the first lap in turn 3, the car just snapped on me. So I qualified P8, and then just you kind of get stuck wherever you qualify at that track with having to run the high line. So I'm ready for redemption, definitely.
You know what? And you say that. So it's a 75 lapper for you guys. It's 90 laps for Hunter in Indy Pro. Right before we came in here and to talk about the race, we talked about your fitness. I'd have to think that particular track, even though it's maybe not as physical overall with lefts and rights, over that 75 laps, I got to think the concentration and focus, it's still a very physical race in terms of both mentally and physically.
Yeah, definitely.
That was the only race I was tired in last year. Sorry to interrupt, but that was the only race that I was like gripping the wheel so tight just because everything's happening so quick. And after the race, I was like destroyed. First, like only time last year. So yeah, sorry to interrupt, but
Jack, would you agree with that?
Yeah, it was good. I think I came on the radio 15 laps in and said, "Hey, how far in are we?" And when they told me that, I was dying.
So listen, for all this work you put in at PitFit, this has to be the payoff, knowing that you're going to be able to go into this race and feel so much different throughout the entire 75 laps. It has to be the payoff.
Yeah, definitely.
Have you been doing it? So what about neck exercises? Has Jim Leo been working on that neck for you or what?
Yeah, they have a neck machine and then the iron neck. So it's good to see everyone has to do it in there. So,
what about you in terms of testing? Did Miller Vinatieri Motorsports get out to a track somewhere?
We didn't. My teammate is going to test on a track in Toledo. I don't know the name of it, but I opted out.
Toledo Speedway.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I chose to do 2 days on a road course because that's the majority of our stuff, and I've already had all the days at Lucas Oil, plus a couple more like at Memphis and everything. So I feel pretty good for that. I think we're going to put all of our focus on the road course stuff.
And Jack William, you did say that you had good speed last year. What are your expectations going into this year's oval race?
I think we can run at the front, especially with Skip. He has a big background in NASCAR, so
that's true. That's
pretty good at setting up a car to turn left.
That gives you a bit of confidence, right?
Yeah.
All right, Hunter, what about you? Obviously, you're jumping up from USF 2000 to Indy Pros, which is a significantly faster lap. It's a lot more car, like you said, more everything, more horsepower, downforce, tires, everything to get around there quicker. And then you go from here, you have one more oval as well. So you almost have to have that second thought, right, that you're not only just trying to win this race, but you're also developing the oval car from when we get to Gateway at the end of August.
I think it's like a oval state of mind almost now. It's like the oval part of the championship. Obviously, like you said, we go to Gateway afterwards, and very, very two different types of tracks. Definitely. I mean, Lucas Oil is a little almost like a bull ring running the high line. Then we go to Gateway, and it's almost like a super speedway for us in a way. You know, we're flat out in sixth gear with big drops and multiple lanes, which I can't wait. That's going to be so fun. But I mean, I've done a bunch of, even quarantine stuff. I was lucky enough to do a bit of iRacing stuff on the oval with the Andretti guys, and just learning about, like, obviously it's not, granted it's not real life, but just the amount of kind of attention, I guess you could say, I've paid and really studied on the oval stuff with Dirty Air, like I touched on before, and just setting up your runs and timing. It should be, hopefully it should pay off. I mean, I'm going in open-minded. Like I said, you don't know who's going to be quick, or, I know what I can do. I know what the team can do. And I know they're putting on a bunch of hard work. So I can't see any reason why we shouldn't have two really strong results.
Hey, Jack, I'll cap off of that question as well. Obviously, Hunter talking a little bit about using iRacing. You said that you were focusing more on the road course. You got your teammate Max going to run at Toledo Speedway to get some seat time there. Did you use iRacing at all? Have you done a bunch of oval racing in the car?
I did, but at the end of the day, we're all on our kind of at-home simulators, and I don't think that it really will translate into the actual thing, because you can see some people, like Max was always a lot quicker than me on the iRacing stuff, and I could never bridge that gap. But then it tightened up a lot more between him and I at the road course stuff. So I think it's hard to judge, and really at the end of the day, it's kind of a video game. So
I know some people have that idea. Some people are more focused on it, but I get that. Listen, I appreciate you guys both joining me. Jack William, congrats on your 5th position in that final race at Mid-Ohio. That's awesome, and good luck at Lucas Oil Raceway.
Thank you.
Hunter, you as well. P2, that was pretty big for you. And I did see the moment. I remember watching that. I'm taking a deep breath myself. But, don't wreck right now.
Yeah.
Came home for second, which is great. And knowing you and watching what you did last year, you're the kind of guy that always is able to fuel off momentum. So I expect you to be real quick when we get to the oval as well.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate you having me on.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you guys for being with me. I love it. We'll drop these guys off. Again, folks, this is the cool thing about this program, because the bottom line is here's a couple of young drivers, different places on the road to Indy. They both had different experiences. Of course, Jack William Miller coming in last year, and there were some ups and downs, some really flashes of brilliance, and he had some issues on the track as well, but was able to dial things in. And seeing what he's done with this dedication to his fitness levels and the health side of it, working with guys like Gabby Chavez and Jim Leo at PitFit, that's the kind of dedication you want to see out of any young driver, to understand that last year he was struggling a little bit in terms of fitness. Maybe fatigue was getting to him, and you take steps to address that. A new engineer with him as well, and Skip Esma, that's fantastic as well, changing the dynamic in the tent. So I think that's why we saw such good pace out of him. And again, that P5 I think what we're all kind of looking for from Jack William Miller here in 2020. And then with Hunter McElrea, again, last year, one of the superstars of USF 2000, we're all hoping that he makes his way all the way to the NTT Indy cars. There's a tremendously talented driver and a great kid in and out of the car as well. So obviously awesome to have those guys with us here today on the broadcast. I'm going to try to get somebody else next week. I'm not quite sure who I'm going to get a hold of yet. Somebody maybe who has had some success maybe on the ovals. Because, of course, if we do something next, let's say Tuesday, we end up going on track on Thursday and Friday at Lucas Oil Raceway. Looking forward to that. Of course, the Indianapolis 500 just coming around the corner. Hope you guys are enjoying everything that's happening with all the broadcasting, all the practices getting underway. We're, of course, watching the drivers that we had in the road to Indy in the last number of years. Oliver Askew, Pato Award, Renus VK, Jack Harvey. You keep going down the list. Colton Hurd, all the guys who have moved up and now represent the road to Indy. Hopefully this year in the greatest spectacle in racing. Thank you so much for tuning into this particular edition of the Debrief Live. And again, I'll be back next week and leave more of a preview for Lucas Oil Raceway. We'll look at who's potentially going to be quick. We'll talk about who tested where, kind of bring you up to speed before we actually head to Lucas Oil Raceway. Thanks for joining me again, folks. Book it.